Okay, the timeline of events adds context, obviously, to when things have happened, assuming, of course, they didn't do a time stomp or a time adjustment. So it'll give you additional information on your attacker. Tracing events to other activities it gives you a much better picture, the entire holistic picture. Time on that can help that out quite a bit. Timeline analysis can provide insight into how fast or slow an attacker is acting on the system. We talked about this before. If you have sometimes things are known as smash and grabs, where they pretty much try to get in as quickly as possible, grab what they need or grab what they can, and then get out of Dodge. So they just got in, they did their business, and then they got out. So you can see, based on timeline analysis or time analysis, just how fast the attacker is working. And then sometimes you can figure out if they're a long-term attacker. You can see just how long it took them to get through each of the steps of their attack chain. Excuse me. Timeline analysis can also help narrow the time windows for analysis, which is nice. If you know it stopped at a certain date or you know it started on a certain date, for the most part, you can kind of cut out beyond those points. And then event correlation with other systems. But again, having mentioned the log analysis piece with the times, getting that correlated and normalized, so to speak, may be a challenge. But once you get that set up, it'll be very nice for correlating what events happened in what order. Some important times to be looking at. They call them MAC times, but not the media access control like the MAC address of a NIC, but the modified access and changed for Unix or Windows uses created. But the MAC times are very important for metadata attributes to use. Modified when the files were altered. Accessed when they were open, but not necessarily modified. If you just open to read only, you'll get a accessed, but you will not get a changed value. And then in Unix, if it is actually modified at all, you'll get a different date and time for each of those attributes there. All right. Windows also uses the entry modified time, which is when the master file table entry was altered. In ext4, which is the Linux base, they have something called btime or born time, which is essentially analogous to the created time, which makes sense, right? When the file or whatever was born as kind of a birthday, I guess, huh? Some file systems disable the access time to improve performance. So in that case, this can be found in this registry key for Windows. And in Unix, the system information can be found in the mounting information by the presence of a no A-time attribute. So that's just to speed up files opening up. So unfortunately, if you need to look for access when a file has been accessed, you may not be able to get that piece of information if these two or if this setting is set either in Windows or in Unix. So using MAC times for analysis, right, it can provide some valuable information. The timestamps can give you when the file was introduced to the system, time frames to look for when the activity happened on the computer, were other files created around the same time, so it can give you a general time frame to look for. Were files deleted? And are the logs that recorded the activity at that time. So despite the fact that MAC times can give you valuable information, it should be taken with a grain of salt. So there's some variability to it. Time attribute manipulation is a threat when it comes to MAC times. There are tools. I've mentioned timestamp before, and there's also set mace. And if you're familiar with Linux, there's a touch command can modify timestamps. So, it's important to look for these values, but just understand that they can be adjusted and they can be tampered with. So Moving files between different file systems can cause discrepancy in timestamps as well, depending on the particular file system you're using. So be aware of that if you're using MAC times for your analysis. So time correlation, incorporating time information from different events and solutions allows an investigator to be able to chain together their events in a meaningful way, kind of give you the better picture, not just the steps, but perhaps how long it took and when they happened. Normalizing, as I mentioned, and correlating logs is a good idea, not necessarily easy, as I mentioned. Individual events may not seem of interest until they're analyzed and evaluated against other events. So some things, like I mentioned, the DDoS happening at this time, and then you may find out later that this ingress or exfiltration happened shortly after when that DDoS started coming. So that kind of correlation will help you get a better picture of your adversary and how they're coming at you. So here's some just an example of the time correlation from the mail server. At 14:29, the user received an email with a PDF attachment bound for this user at company.com. And then about 3 minutes later, workstation 33, user 1 opens the email. And then a minute or so later, about 90 seconds later, the flyer.pdf is created in the user's download file. And then shortly thereafter, 1 full second, you'll notice Adobe Update.exe is created in the downloads file. So that could very well be something malicious there in that PDF that creates that Adobe Update, trying to be sneaky. And then about 30 seconds or so later, a connection is established from that workstation 33 to an unknown host through port 22 using SSH, which is an encrypted protocol, so you won't be able to tell exactly what's traveling through there. And then you get a snort intrusion detection system alert. 1 second later, alert triggered on any internal to external connection to port 22. So hopefully that actually got stopped. If snort was set up as an intrusion prevention system as well as a intrusion detection, that may have been stopped at that point. And if you happen to have that particular signature built in, so it should give you the alert. But these are the types of things that you can get doing a timeline analysis. Again, you can see they're looking at different things. You're going to get information from the email server, right, and some the event log information when they're talking about when the PDF was downloaded and that the Adobe Update was created. You'll be looking in those kind of areas. And then, of course, you have your Snort IDS logs.
Notice your date is a day later than from when that connection was established.
Last one.
Oh, yep. Okay. So maybe it wasn't a second, it was a day and a second later, which is a horrible IDS. Somebody get them a new IDS. I don't know why you would have waited 24 hours before you alert, but or maybe they just didn't catch it till that time.